Thank you for tuning into the Zealous Podcast. I'm your host, Rocky Snyder. This week, I've got J.D. Howell in the house. He is the assistant sports performance coach for the Oakland Athletics. And when we recorded this, it was just one day before spring training got underway. So, whole bunch of stuff to unpack, literally in Arizona for him, but also in this show. Now, meanwhile, before we get underway, I want to tell you about educational opportunities through Setanta College. If you want a bachelor's of science in strength conditioning, Setanta's the place. But there's also master's programs, a master's of science in performance coaching, kind of like what JD's doing. We've got applied sport and exercise psychology, sports injury and return to performance management, and a master's of science in applied sports biomechanics and movement science. You can go to setantacollege.com, and if you're interested in a little bit off your tuition, say 10%, just put in the code RS10, that's RS10, and you'll be happy you did. I'm having a good time with my master's program, and a whole bunch of my accountability partners can say the same. So now, let's get on to the conversation. Well, JD, thanks for coming on Zealous. I really appreciate you. You are just about to go ballistic. Basically, season is upon you, preseason, spring training, and you're down at the A's training facility getting ready for spring training. I can't believe you've got a little time to put aside right now. But first, thanks for coming on. And are you ready for spring training?
Yeah, no, of course. I think, we had a full off season to kind of go through it in the last couple of weeks, months you spend preparing, getting everything ordered, getting everything set up and organized. And I just, again, want to thank you for the opportunity to do this. Like I said before, I think some of the people you've had on this podcast are incredible influences of mine. And it's appreciative to learn from those people in aspects like this, but now to be a part of it and give back and share my story is something I'm really appreciative for. So thank you.
Well, that's it. My pleasure. It's just we pay it forward, right? They shared, made some impact on your life, and you're going to do the same for others. So, yeah, how about this? How about we just roll back the time a little bit? You give me a little bit of understanding of how you got to be with the A's organization now for over 10 years, 12 years now.
Yeah, so this will be my 12th season with the A's, which is it's kind of crazy to think that I've been here that long, and I think I'm pretty lucky to have the longevity I've had with one organization, to have as many different roles as I've had. Um, I started back as a seasonal intern in 2013, working with the Arizona League. So it's one of the lower minor league levels that are primarily reserved for newly drafted players or young international players for their first opportunity in the States. So it's their first taste of affiliated baseball stateside. And that's where I came out, and I thought I was going to spend 6 months out here and get an experience and put on the resume. And I'm still here, and I'm on the world's longest internship. Stopped getting credit for that a long time ago, but I'm really grateful for that they've kept me around for so long.
So, were you a ball player when you were growing up? I mean, you're obviously athletic.
I'm a terrible baseball player. I was cut from my freshman high school team, so I won't I won't blow smoke on your podcast to make it seem like I'm not. I actually played football all through high school and college. I had that opportunity. Baseball was something that I didn't look at as I always wanted to be a baseball strength coach. I wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach for a long time, and I wanted to be involved in athletics. And it wasn't about chasing the sport, or it wasn't about chasing logos. It was about trying to embrace an opportunity. And I bounced around a number of different colleges as an intern, and got an opportunity for one more internship that happened to be in professional baseball. And it was just take advantage of the opportunity. And I didn't, at the time, at 23 years old, it wasn't supposed to be a long-term thing. And I just kind of embraced it. And I think I can say comfortably now I'm a baseball guy, and I've come to love the sport even more than I did growing up. I did enjoy baseball. I played a little bit of some rec league baseball. Wasn't very good. I was a Philly fan growing up. I'm still a Philly sports fan. But now, just truly having an appreciation for what these athletes have to do on a daily basis, on a yearly basis, and what that grind is. This is really something I've come to appreciate.
And so, how has your role
Mhm.
expanded? How has it grown from the moment you were a seasonal intern to now?
Yeah, it's going back to just being lucky to be here and have the opportunity that the A's have given me for so long. I've got to experience so many different things. To start at the complex level, and get to work with those athletes in Arizona that are professionals, but young professionals, then having the opportunity to be at a few different affiliates in our minor league system. I actually spent time, I spent a year in the Dominican at our Dominican complex. I was that strength coach there. Um, in 2018, a position was actually created for me to oversee all strength and conditioning operations in Latin America. I was our first Latin American strength and conditioning coordinator. I did that for 3 years. And then after the 2020 season and COVID and the things that had shuffled around there, I was actually given an opportunity to run the minor league department as the minor league strength and conditioning coordinator. I did that for the last 3 years. And now coming into this year, this will be my first year in Oakland as the major league assistant. So I've definitely had a variety of different experiences, perspectives, responsibilities, and it's definitely grown in different ways. But I do think each opportunity or each stop along prepares you for the next, right? So to experience a number of different minor league affiliates and what those different players, those different cities and those different levels and the stressors that go into that, it prepares you to then oversee the Latin American Academy, and then having a feel for overseeing that, where now you have staff that you supervise and you have budgets that you monitor and you have equipment and you're having conversations outside of strength and conditioning with baseball staff, with front office staff. It prepares you then to become the minor league coordinator, and now it's the same role, it just expands, right? There's a lot more staff to oversee. There's a lot more conversations to be had. So it's helped me understand the big picture. And I think that's one of the hardest things to do is people don't necessarily always realize how big professional baseball organizations are in terms of the different teams under the umbrella, the amount of staff under the umbrella, the amount of moving parts. So I don't think I would be prepared to take on a major league opportunity to the degree that I am without having all the little stops along the way that help you see the big picture from the lowest level in our department, the very basic introductory, an intro level that I was, all the way to now, um, unless I'd had those stops and be able to see that big picture.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, just in the times that I've had conversations with the other guys in your organization, from one of the strength coaches in the DR not too long ago to your old athletic trainer and other coaches, it's just remarkable what a juggernaut of an organization we're talking about, like how deep those roots really grow and go. So now we're getting ready for spring training. It kicks off tomorrow as we record this show. It's going to kick off on Tuesday, February 13th. So what what do you have to do to prepare for that?
Yeah. So tomorrow, is essentially for us, it's pitchers and catchers arrival, right? So in terms of, from a strength and conditioning perspective, tomorrow is physicals, is movement assessments, and that's pretty much all we have going on for tomorrow. And then as we go through camp, we'll do a number of other assessments as we progress over that first week. But just to prepare for that, we've gone through and we've made sure, from the making sure all the loose ends, little things are tied up. Are all the supplements ordered? Is all the equipment been ordered? Is everything, anything that needed maintenance or needed to be replaced, has that happened? Have we scheduled out certain days? Have we structured our paperwork? Do we have a full list? Are our rosters complete? Do we have all those little things that are going to make the chaos of the day to day with so many bodies moving around that much easier? And I think it's just a little, it's almost like the stuff that no one wants to do or likes to do as a strength coach. It's the paperwork side of it. It's the preparation side of it to make sure all your, I's are dotted, T's are crossed, that kind of thing. And then, like I said, then we just hit the ground running, and that's where it gets fun. It is a lot of, it's chaos, but it's controlled chaos. And it's something now, 12 spring trainings later, you're used to. But it goes by pretty quick. but it is a lot of fun. And just tomorrow is you have that kind of uneasy feeling in your stomach, that little bit of anxiety of, did we forget anything? You go over everything a second time. Are we really ready? And everything's printed out and set up and organized. And then once it happens, you just adjust on your feet, adjust on the fly.
Right on. And how many athletes are we talking when you say pitchers and catchers?
Pitchers and catchers, I think we're looking at 40 to 45 tomorrow. I think we'll have a total of between 60 and 70 in camp to start. And then
And
obviously,
these are AAA majors, minors. How
uh,
how many how many teams are we talking?
so this is essentially our 40-man roster, so everyone on a major league contract. So your 40-man
Yeah.
roster, and then the additional spots over 40 are going to be some free agent acquisitions, some of our own minor league guys that are given an opportunity, first major league camp to either get some exposure to the front office or have an opportunity to make the team. A couple different, whether spots are up for grabs, if they are, that's something for the front office and our coaching staff to decide on. But really just to bring a lot of people in to be given an opportunity to see against the most elite level of competition how they're going to fare.
Gotcha. I think I misunderstood. I thought you were telling me there was going to be 40 pitchers and catchers. And
No, there are.
there are? Really?
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
45 pitchers and catchers, and then the rest of those 60 to 70 spots are going to be made up amongst position players.
And when do they start showing up?
I believe so. Pitchers and catchers are going to start Tuesday. I believe their physical day is Friday or Saturday. So pretty much by the end of the first week, and then by next week we're rolling. We're 70 guys deep, and here we go.
Okay, when it comes to assessment, are we talking like global assessments initially, and then you're going to go to more specificity of the player, like in terms of their positions, or what kind of assessments are we dealing with?
For just tomorrow, just some variation of movement assessments. So I would say almost a variation of an FMS. We don't do a traditional FMS. We do kind of a modified in-house FMS, look at some global movement patterns. We'll also look at some different ranges of motion. We'll look at body composition. We'll look at grip strength. We'll look at pelvic tilt. We'll look at a couple different things there. Really just basic static stuff. Nothing real dynamic. And then over the course of the next week or so, we're going to go through a series of some performance testing. We do some conditioning testing. We do some different variations of jump testing. We do we'll incorporate force plate testing into that as well. And then as we go through, we'll get some athletic profiles together. And from there, that's when I think we go when we make more of our individual adjustments in terms of programming. For us, all of our assessments, it's not necessarily for anybody else but us as a strength staff, to help us guide how we program for each individual person. What are their needs? What are their needs from a static standpoint? What are their needs from a dynamic standpoint, from a posture standpoint, an injury history standpoint? From there, I know the athletic trainers will do a different variation of assessments. They have their own ranges of motions, manual muscle testing. They'll combine it with their ortho exam, their physicals, and that's information that they're going to keep on their side. But for us, it's just the more quality information we can collect about one individual person, it's just going to make us better strength coaches throughout the course of spring and throughout the course of the season to make those individual adjustments that we're not trying to put square pegs in round holes. We're trying to tailor each individual program to that person, and the demands going to be placed on them for the next 6+ months.
And how much importance do you put on RM testing? Like in the gym setting, is that something that you jump into readily? Is that something that you progressively get into over the next, say, week or two, getting them accustomed to the gym environment again? Or is that something that is kind of like, okay, it's good to know what these lifts are, kind of, but I have
Mhm.
these other metrics that I'm using to give me more insight?
I would say the latter. I'd say we probably use a variation of other metrics in combination now with, last year was our first year being granted that we had the resource of force plates. And we were incredibly appreciative of that, but it was one of those things that still, for us, it's fairly in its infancy. We're still trying to find what particular data sets and what metrics we can pull out that are going to give us various information that's going to help us make better informed decisions. We're still playing with that, and I feel this year we're way more confident going in this year based off of all the data we collected last year onto how we're going to utilize those things. But again, we're still learning. We're still trying to figure out some of those things. So as far as like RM testing or rep max testing, I don't think we do that primarily. I think there's a cost benefit ratio there too, right?
Yeah.
Because as good as that information could be and to help make you more informed decisions, I think where the hangup is if you have one or two guys, whether it's a form breakdown or it's a fatigue issue or whatever it is that leads to some type of injury, it's now they're not available, right? And everyone knows the old adage, the best ability is availability. And that's one thing we never want to impact. If anything, we're trying to do our best to keep guys available and keep them on the field. So I would say, yeah, the short answer to your question is utilize a variety of different metrics, whether it's just postural assessments, range of motion assessments, some jump assessments, uh, little things like that that are going to help us understand what you need as an athlete.
Do you think that is kind of like the biggest transition, say in the last 10 to 12 years in the weight room? Like when I think of the growth development or maturation of our approach in strength conditioning, is it that we're getting away from just gross force production any way anyone can to more quality of movement and looking at that quality as it relates to fatigue? I mean, what do you see it being one gym rat to another? What do you see as being the growth?
I think to your point of the quality of movement, I think it's also the type of movement, understanding how guys move. So um, you could have guys that are, incredible force producers, right? Or but they lack that twitchiness or that bounce, right? So how can we develop that and utilize that? You can have guys that are incredibly twitchy athletes but struggle on the force production side of things. So I think the big thing when it comes to technology, and it's not that we have all the bells and whistles and toys in the world to use. We don't, and I'm incredibly grateful of the resources that we do have and that we've been given the last couple of years to go ahead and incorporate into our program. I think one of the biggest things, the amount of assessments or the more assessments we're doing, and the more whether it's tools or technology, giving that objective measurement, giving those objective numbers, it's having to make strength coaches a little less of a salesman. I don't have to sell you on the quality of my program or how much I know or how experienced I am. I can show you where things are good and where things lack. And then if I have your trust and we incorporate an intervention, I can show you how that intervention impacted those numbers. And that increases that buy-in and that feedback loop. And to be honest, I mean, with today's athlete, they are more intelligent. They have been exposed to more technology. They have been exposed to more numbers. They do understand a lot more terminology and some of the science behind what we've gone to school, we've been educated on. So with a lot of athletes, you're seeing it more and more that you can have more of a kinesiology or an exercise science based discussion with guys, and it is refreshing, but it also you need to know what you're talking about because if you try to BS them, they're going to know and they're going to call you on it too. So it works both ways, but I do think there's been this, to your initial question, this maturation of not just understanding force output any way and every way. It's how do you produce force? How do you move? What strategies do you use to get into these positions to produce force in different planes, at different rates, at different intensities and different speeds? And then from there, understanding what metrics are lacking or where the holes are in the game. And if we can improve it, it comes back to the Usain Bolt analogy that I've used in the classroom, taking, you know, uh, a tenth off of URI's 100-meter time isn't a big deal, but taking a tenth of a second off the fastest man in the world is a massive deal because of his window for adaptation is so far closed. He's so far maxed out of his genetic and physical potential. So it's kind of the same with us. We get some of the best baseball athletes in the world where taking one component of their movement or their performance or their force production, force absorption, redistribution, change of direction, however you want to put it, taking one of those components and making it a fraction better is going to exponentially help them on the field. And that's kind of what we're chasing.
Yeah, that's got to be fun to find.
Yeah, yeah, it's an Easter egg hunt. Every opportunity or every athlete is going to be different challenges, and that's what makes it fun.
Well, you mentioned too that you mentioned the word strategy, what their strategy is to produce force. And all of these athletes have had unique experiences over their life. And those could be also injurious, like some type of injury or overuse, some surgery, some accidents, even emotional well being are going to be something that they are unconsciously having to create a strategy of movement around, almost like our navigation system that we're trying to get from Santa Cruz to Oakland. And if 280 is all backed up, then it's going to give me the next most efficient means to get up to the stadium. But and our bodies work like that. So long-winded, what kind of eyes do you look at when you're determining an individual's strategy for power production and for movement? Are there things that you're looking at, like is it like a joint by joint motion? Is it just overall kinematic sequencing? Like, I know you've got your sports scientists and I know you've got your PTs, but when it comes to like in the strength room, are there certain things that you're picking up on?
Yeah, I would say, along with all the tools, all the resources, all the testing, something that can't go unconsidered is your coach's eye, right? And on top of that is your relationship with players. So knowing your players are going to know, is this a high school athlete? Is this a Division I college athlete? Have that what's their training age? What type of experiences have they had coming to this point? So it's again, what's someone's aptitude level? What's someone's
Mm,
kinesthetic awareness level? So these are just basic, like how well do they know their body? Do they know themselves? Do they understand their spatial awareness? Because the reality of it is, some guys are really, really good baseball players, but in terms of pure athletic testing, they're not exceptional athletes. They're exceptional baseball players. So, not everyone is a weight room monster. Not everyone enjoys the weight room. Not everyone has had good experiences with
mm.
whether it's personal trainers or strength and conditioning coaches in high school or college or wherever it was. So I think being able to utilize all the different testing that I talked about, right? The movement assessments, force plates, jump test, power test, all these different things we can look at. That's great. And it's great information, but it doesn't take away from your ability to relate and connect with athletes and know them on a personal level and their set of experiences that have helped get them to this point. And some of those things are going to impact how they approach movement, training, uh, buy-in, organization, like how they organize a movement. So I think, again, a little long-winded, but even to the old analogy, I think is it Gary Cook or Gray Cook that every test is an exercise, every exercise is a test, right? So even watching guys in warm-ups or watching guys how they go through just some daily routine prep work and seeing how they organize and knowing what some limitations are there and then how you're going to adjust on the back end.
No, well said. So I love that, and the information that you take in that may not be easily measurable, but instinctive by nature. It's something that can't come necessarily easy. Who knows? One day AI might find a way to replace the coach's eye, but so far it hasn't done so yet. So I'm. What's that?
I hope not. I hope not. Keep
No. Now you're kind of double dipping here. You're doing a juggling act, my man. You are also an adjunct professor with Grand Canyon University. So what's that like? And what are your courses that you're teaching, and how long you've been doing it, and how are you doing this balance act?
So I started with Grand Canyon in the off season of 2016. So it started as an off-season job. I had reached out, I talked to some people. They'd had some adjunct positions open. I expressed some interest in teaching, and they wanted their exercise science department at that time was fairly young, and they were all for getting someone in with a different set of, I guess, atypical or non-traditional clinical experience. I had a lot of practical experience, but hadn't had a lot of formal, you know, lab outside of, graduate school. Hadn't had formal practice or experience in a teaching setting. So they gave me a shot, and I had a couple classes, and I had a lot of students that liked it, and a lot of professors that liked it, and they kept asking me to come back. And for a while, for a couple of years there, I was teaching primarily CSCS prep courses. So a CSCS prep lab and a lecture.
Nice.
I actually helped revise a syllabus for one of those. If anyone's familiar with the NASM corrective exercise specialist, the CES, I taught a CES prep course as well. So it was really cool to be able to give 10 years of strength and conditioning experience at a variety of different colleges, and then through, the minor league professional baseball system, and how some of the coursework applies to real life experience, and what works and what, for me, what hadn't worked. And I was able to get more practice at relaying information multiple ways. And I feel like being in front of a classroom full of 20-year-olds helped make me a better strength coach, because it helped me, one, refine my ability to deliver information in a succinct fashion, but also, if I explain something one way and 8 people still don't get it, I can take the same end goal, the same bit of information, and explain it 4 different ways until everyone kind of is on the same page, however they learn or however they understand it, right? So the multiple way to skin a cat type of thing, or come up with a bunch of different dad joke type of analogies, or whatever worked for a variety of different reasons. And I think it helped translate back to me trying to explain either, our plan for a player, for whether it's a return to play or it's a progression, why we're doing what we're doing, um, getting guys to buy into a program or a philosophy. I think it was huge for me. The last couple of years, though, because of my responsibilities with the A's, have always been first and foremost. It's always been the primary responsibility, and GCU has been secondary for me. Um, the last couple of years as the minor league coordinator, because of some travel demands, I wasn't able to teach on campus for the last couple of years. So I primarily just had about 2 online classes. I do about 1 each semester. Right now, these are actually phys ed courses. It's called Varsity Athletics. So what this is it's a question form for varsity athletes on just different daily experiences and challenges of a college athlete. And I think why I really like teaching this class is because I do bring an interesting perspective of being a former college athlete, and now working in professional sports, and now getting current college athletes that now have become professional, and some of those demands. So it allows me to pose some different questions, or some controversial questions, or spark some debate within the class. And it's really cool to see some of the thought processes, and from students with GCU from all over the world. They do get a lot of international students as athletes, to get those perspectives. And it's helped me to just understand today's athlete a little bit more. So again, something that translates back to my main profession, my main job. It helps me translate back to that, to understand that perspective too. But getting to see how, temperatures, or I guess temperatures or perceptions of different topics, NIL, for example, and how that's impacted, college athletics today, or the transfer portal. It kind of gives me insight into that I don't think a lot of regular people get. So again, really grateful to GCU for allowing me to keep doing that for as long as I've have. But it's just one more tool that's helped me be a better coach.
Yeah, and so you and I have a few things in common in that regard, teaching, whether it's phys or biomechanics and so on. But having a wife who is a credentialed school teacher, I know I've gotten a lot of great advice from her when it comes to scaffolding, creating lesson plans, and designing rubrics, so to speak, and so on. So I imagine you get a little helpful hint from her
Yeah,
from time to
I
time.
get all my emails proofread. I get told when I can't say that or I shouldn't say that. Yeah, she does a good job of holding me accountable. So I love it.
Oh, that's great. So you've been there with the athletics organization for going on 12 years now, with the initial frame of mind that this is going to look good on a resume after 6 months. I'm out of here. I'm
Mhm.
heading to wherever. Maybe it's the NFL, NBA. Don't need to tell me. But why are you still there? What kept you around? What has been the hook that has kept you with the Oakland A's?
I think it's for me, it's a personal drive to, I guess, compete against yourself and take advantage of an opportunity, right? So it's no secret. I've said this to people before. I thought I was going to be a college football strength coach. That's what my career path was. That's my mentor, the guy who brought me into strength and conditioning, who I emulated and wanted to be since I was about 15 years old. Eric Marcosi, who's the head strength coach of Lehigh University, which I owe everything to. He pulled me into this profession, and I wanted to be him, and that's who I thought I was going to be. I was going to bounce around some different colleges, working with football. Some schools I didn't, and the A's were. It was an opportunity. Pursue an opportunity and do it to the best of your ability and crush it and see how it goes. Um, and after that first year, that was a seasonal type of internship or part-time year, they asked me to come back full-time. And it was the first full-time job I had ever come across in strength and conditioning. And said, yeah, sure, let's do it. And I just tried to make the most of that. And I would like to think that my reputation precedes me a little bit. And I fully bought into the culture that we have here and the philosophy that we have here and the mission and the desire to just make the game better and leave the game better than we found it. And that's something that's, my head strength coach Josh has said that, like, no matter when you leave the game better than you found it. And it's just been that pursuit to make the most of any and every opportunity you're given, to not waste it. So that's not, for no reason have I ever thought of walking away or I was done with baseball. As long as there's an opportunity and there's something to be proved to someone, but especially myself, I'm going to stick around and I'm going to keep going.
And you've already mentioned the deeper exploration of force plate technology and getting a better understanding based on last year's metrics and so on. Are there other things going into spring training aside from the obvious of just getting going? Are there certain elements this year that you are eager to pursue?
In terms of force plates.
Well, just in terms of the different the whether it's a new conditioning program, if it's a different kind of philosophy, a different direction that you and the rest of your team has come up with, like this is what we're doing a little bit differently this year, and here's why. Like, is there a new direction or slightly veering off of what you did last year that's giving you eager anticipation?
Yeah, I want to say the biggest thing, and that was a note I had written down. One of the biggest things that I'm excited to get back to is something I've said to the other minor league coordinators. Last 3 years being the minor league coordinator, and then prior to that being the Latin American coordinator. For me in baseball, once you get the coordinator title, it's essentially a supervisor of some sort. You're no longer a strength coach in a way. You're more of a coach of coaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're helping other people's careers develop. You're helping give them perspective. You're helping them find their voice or their way or give advice. Um, so getting now this opportunity to move to the major league side as an assistant, I'm going to be able to get back to being a strength coach because one of my primary responsibilities is going to be rehab. Um, so I'll spend the majority of the year in Oakland and probably not travel with the team very much. So any of our injured players would stay back in Oakland, and I will be able to have these long-term development plans with them. So that's where it's going to give me an opportunity to try some different philosophies that you're alluding to, some different protocols. And I don't think that there's one particular thing that I'm looking towards or a philosophy or a type of program to follow. It comes back to that, what is the injury, what is the history, what are the needs of that athlete to get back on the field, and then go after that. So to get back to being a little more of a traditional strength coach that gets to have a say in all of my programming and try some new things and get back to being with a team, which has actually been since 2017 was the last time I was with a team at an affiliate. So having our 25 guys and having, those conversations and those interactions every day and having a direct hand in those programs instead of letting someone else write them and then giving feedback or advice or supervision. It's now these are my programs and I'm even more invested. So I would say for me, the most exciting thing is to get back to the bread and butter of why we get into this and to get back to that.
Yeah, that's exciting. Honestly, that's really nice. I mean, I think the American way is we find somebody that's really good at their technical knowledge and skill sets, and we turn them into a manager. And they leave behind all that in the hopes of teaching others what they know, which sometimes is very successful, obviously, but other times there's just that missing that void, that being in that environment filled so well that when we move out of it, we're kind of lost. Not to say that that is your, if anything, that would be an example of me. Like, don't take me out of where I really love. I love rehab, strength and conditioning, and pulling into return to performance. Like that whole progression of getting somebody like just got the baton released from the athletic trainer and physical therapist, perhaps, and now where can we get that person not only be back to where they were, but beyond that? That sounds exciting. Do you have, like, I'm imagining you do have to some degree some experience with that rehab side of things, but that must be an exciting venture for you.
Yeah. A little bit with the rehab stuff. I mean, as an affiliate guy, you have injuries that pop up, and the less significant injuries that'll stay with you. And you would, at the time, as an affiliate guy, would use the advice of my coordinator and my management staff, right, back in Arizona to help me guide those rehab programs. So getting a little experience that way. When I supervised the Latin American program, that was my first taste of really trying to see any of the long-term injuries, having a lot more control over the long-term plans, whether it was prep routines, the progressions in the weight room, the progressions with running progressions, um, in conjunction with our athlete training staff, right? So that was the first taste of working together on, these young athletes and their progression back. My first year as the coordinator in 2021, we did not have a minor league rehab coordinator. So I oversaw all the affiliates, as well as long-term rehab in Arizona.
Not
Um,
like you didn't have enough going on.
yeah,
Damn.
as well as the Dominican. So that was definitely a
Oh,
tough year to kind of get thrown into
oh,
it.
oh my gosh.
And that was
And your
where
lady is still with you. Wait, your woman is still with you after that?
I met my wife at the end of that first year in 2013. She's
Okay,
been
that
with me through it
explains it.
all. Yeah, she's been with me through it all. So, yeah, so from the minor league side, any of the long-term rehabs. So if you were at an affiliate in 2021 and you had a significant injury where you were sent back to Arizona, I would do those progressions, those weight room progressions, running progressions, the prep routine stuff. So that was probably my last experience of really diving into the rehab stuff. Now the last 2 years of having we had hired a rehab coordinator and he oversees the long-term rehab now on the minor league side. So getting to supervise him and see his programs and his thought process and his progression, what I could learn from him, I think is going to help me even more prepare for this role on some of the ideas and things that he's taught me from his set of experiences coming in that I'm going to get to lean on and now take and utilize and change and make my own and apply it to a different set of athletes at the highest level. So yeah, it's exciting to get back to being a strength coach again.
Yeah. Okay. So, top three, you can't say your coach's eyes, ears, or hands. It's aside from the coach, like top three tools in the weight room that are must haves.
Hmm. Space, I think
Oh,
is.
you had to go there. Yeah, you're just cheating on me, is really what it is.
Oh no,
No,
okay.
I like it. I get it. No, space, that's actually a really good answer because you
Uh,
want three-dimensional movement. You want
yep.
people to explore those end ranges. I totally get it. You don't want them robots just staying in a door frame and lifting along that line. I totally get it. Okay, what else?
Um, I guess because you're gonna make me say one thing. I guess if I had, I'll either say a dumbbell set or adjustable dumbbells.
Cool.
Adjustable dumbbells if I have to, or if I have to say one piece of equipment. Um, so I would say that. I think barbells are great. I don't think everyone is made for every movement in a barbell. There's some adjustment we can make somewhere, but so I won't say that one. So I'll say space, um, dumbbells. Mm.
How much work do you do with bands, like variable resistance?
Uh, I think it definitely has its place. I would say it has its place, but if I had to say a third piece of equipment, I guess medicine balls. Medicine balls for a rotational sport. If we had to pick three pieces of equipment, I think there's a lot of different things we could do with those three things. I
I
think
like it.
um, as you know, as our profession continues to progress and be more innovative and new equipment is always available, we can't lose sight of the basics, right? I know I mentioned barbells, dumbbells, cables, kettlebells, medicine balls. We're getting really, really good at the basics and helping build an athlete's foundation. And I say space, just sprinting, running mechanics, triplanar movement, changing direction, like all those things. If you can get really, really good at the basics, I think you can let the sport development take care of itself.
Okay. No, I like it. Space, the adjustable dumbbells give you more space. You don't have to have racks.
Yeah.
I understood that by far. And medicine balls, freedom of movement, three dimensionality, rotation, power, explosiveness, everything you need. Right on. Okay, so with your career path, obviously it is this upward trend that you're going from one great position to another to another. Yeah, I don't get a sense that you're really going to be satisfied. Any place that you're in, there is that always that hunger for more, that curiosity to learn more. Am I on the right track here?
100%.
All right. Is there an end? Is there an end game that you're seeing, or you're just leaving things open to put me in, coach? I'll play wherever you want me to.
Yeah, yeah, I think it comes back. I said it before. I just making the most of any opportunity that I'm given that if and when I walk away and however that happens. And, people tease you, you get to the big leagues to get fired, right? So, if and when that day comes, I think, and I've said this to a few people, I know Deion Sanders said this recently, in coaching, you're either elevated or you're terminated. And those are pretty much your two options. So I don't really worry about, how this ends or when it ends. I just know that I got to be able to look myself and in the mirror and look at my wife and look at my kids. And I made the most of any opportunity that I was given as much as I could. Um, and that's just what I'm going to keep doing. And I'm grateful that it's all been under one roof and the people that I've known here. And that's one of the biggest things for me, getting this opportunity in the big leagues with this team is a way different feeling than if I would have gotten an opportunity somewhere else. Because there's a level of comfort with the amount of people and the relationships I have in this building that, everyone here's kind of seen me grow up. Like I came here at 23, and a lot of the people on the major league side, they were on our minor league side at one time as well. And they saw me as some 23-year-old kid that knows nothing about baseball that walks not essentially fresh out of college, but I had bounced around four different colleges as an intern and a football strength coach, and that's what I thought I was going to be. And now to see me get this opportunity now, 12 years later, there's definitely a family type of environment or a comfortability to it, which has taken away that part of the stress of trying to make new relationships and impress people. I have a reputation. People know who I am. I can kind of focus on the job. So that's what I'm just going to keep doing is focus on the job and any opportunities that are presented, just make the most of them.
Right on. Okay, so you had mentors, you still have mentors. They pay it forward by teaching you, and now here's an opportunity I'll present you with to pay it forward as well. So for those young, aspiring strength coaches, performance coaches that are out there listening right now and that want to pursue a similar path as your own, make it to the majors, what's your advice?
Hmm. I think consistency, um, discipline, relentlessness, and getting out of your comfort zone. And to just expand on those, like the consistency of day to day and understanding what you want and why you want it, kind of comes back. Know your why. Know your why did you get into this? Are you chasing a logo? Are you chasing a logo on a shirt? Are you chasing a particular sport? Why are you doing that particular sport? I think one of the best things about the A's is it's not. I didn't grow up an A's fan, but damn it, I'm a fan of everyone in this building and everyone on this roster. And it's you've learned that I've earned that ability or that appreciation, right? So I think consistency, I think discipline of, doing some things that other people won't do, taking some opportunities and getting yourself dirty. And, I worked for free for a long time at a bunch of different places because it was an opportunity. And there's a discipline aspect behind that of doing some things that you necessarily don't want to do or things that other people won't do to help you get to where you're going to be. Um, and that ties into the relentless aspect of I think I'm privileged in a way where I knew maybe not here, maybe not baseball, but I knew strength and conditioning, sport performance is what I wanted to do from a young age. And not every strength coach can say they knew that from a young age. At about 16, I was convinced that I was going to be in a weight room the rest of my life in some capacity. Um, so just being able to be relentless on goals and aspirations and desires and outcomes. Um, and then what was the last point I said? Just consistency, discipline, relentlessness, and I forget the last thing I'd said.
Oh, now you're testing me. There
Yeah.
were four. There was all right. We'll have to press
Yeah.
the rewind and come back
Yeah.
again.
No, that's but yeah, I think um just understanding, why you want to do this.
Getting outside your comfort zone.
Oh, comfort zone. Yes, exactly. And that is how I ended up here, right? This is we before we started recording here, we talked about Dr. Marcello, and Brandon Marcello had given me an opportunity to come to Stanford as an intern a long time ago, and I got to work with every sport but football, and that was really uncomfortable. And but I do think that experience helped unlock doors for the position I sit in today, right? So baseball is out of my comfort zone. Olympic strength and conditioning was out of my comfort zone. So just be open to different philosophies, different ideas. We can, Ron McKeefrey at University of Washington, he said something in his podcast years ago that, you know, are you a philosophy based strength coach or a principles based strength coach? We can debate all the different philosophies, West Side, Olympic lifting, power lifting, linear periodization, undulating periodization. We can debate philosophies, but if we understand principles and our outcome is principle based, now we're talking the same language, right? So just being open to different philosophies and how they tie into the principles that we're all chasing, I think has been a big thing for me. And I would challenge, all those young strength coaches that you have a mentor or you have someone that you look up to that has a certain philosophy. Well, that doesn't mean they're wrong. It doesn't mean they're right. Just be open to the other ones that are out there.
Well said. Okay, JD. So if people want to follow you, what's one way that they can do that? Like do you
Um,
Instagram, social media,
yeah,
LinkedIn?
Instagram, or I think all my social media is just so my initials JD, my last name Howell, and the number 78. I think that's pretty much available in all forms there.
Nice. Well, I'll make sure we put the description or the links in the description below. This has been fantastic. I love that you're able to come on a day before it kicks off with spring training, man. Of course, get some good sleep tonight because I don't think you're going to have an abundance of that anytime soon.
No, I'm used to it with a 3.5 and a 1-year-old. I'm used to operating on little sleep.
Oh,
Well, he'll be one.
well, that's
He'll be
good.
one on
Yeah.
Saturday. My youngest will be one this Saturday, so almost.
Woo!
Yeah,
Oh man, yeah. Well, they're training you well.
they
That's
are.
great.
They are.
And that brings this episode of Zealous to a close. I want to thank JD for coming on, as well as thank the Oakland Athletics organization for allowing this to happen. Now, remember, SatantaCollege.com is a place where you can go to improve your education, whether it's in strength conditioning and a bachelor's degree or master's of science in 4 different tracks that they have. Remember to use the code RS10 to get 10% your tuition off today. We'll see you next week.